continuing on the topic of the metaverse now, digging deeper into whether the industrial metaverse specifically is hype or hope. Shall we take a quick poll while they move the cubes? Who thinks it's hype? No one. Oh, a few. Who thinks it's hope? Oh, okay, like a rough split. This should be interesting. All right, well, our next speaker is the head of technology and innovation management at Siemens. Please welcome Annika Hauptvogel for a keynote.
Hello from my side. So I'm going to continue asking you some questions. So who knows the metaverse? Raise your hand. Great. And who has ever heard about the industrial metaverse? So that is what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to answer the question whether the industrial metaverse is hype or hope. So in 2021, Mark Zuckerberg announced the metaverse. And only 1.5 years later, in March 2023, he said, our single largest investment is in improving AI. So that is why some people say the metaverse actually is dead. There are other reasons, and some people even say, well, the metaverse wasn't really ever alive. But I see huge indications that the real potential of the metaverse only evolve in the industrial area. And that is why I prefer to talk about the industrial metaverse. What actually is the industrial metaverse? So the industrial metaverse is a replication of the real world. It's not a fantasy world for gaming. It always relates to the real world, to a real system, like a real machine or a real building. And in connecting the real and the digital world, it will help us to find better solutions with less cost, less resources, and in shorter times. So the industrial metaverse really is about creating impact for our industry in Germany, but also worldwide. If you look at industry today, we see major challenges. So first is, of course, climate change. I mean, we in industry, we are responsible for 37% of CO2 emissions worldwide. Then we had situations like COVID. We do have a conflict in Europe which we never expected to be here. And then we have competition in terms of really a lack of skilled labor. So therefore, I think we have major challenges in industry today. So to handle those challenges, we have to be more energy efficient. We also have to be more resource efficient. We have to be flexible. For example, if you think about all the bottlenecks in the supply chain. And then we also adapt to the new way of work. So for example, if you want to hire someone to fill an open position and you're lucky and you find that one person, you can be sure that the skills this person has today will not be enough until he retires. So you also have to think about how we can develop our colleagues further, how we can take them on that journey in regards of digitalization. So you can see we do have many challenges. But I also can tell you today, we also have one solution, and that is combining the real and the digital world. Because the real world is getting more and more complex, but in transferring those challenges, those problems, those questions in a virtual space, it makes it much easier to solve those questions. So for example, you want to go to the airport this evening maybe. What do? Well, I guess you take a navigation system which, first of all, mirrors the real world. So you have the real map, you have the real streets in this virtual replication. You also can see the current traffic situation. And that is just an easy example how you in your daily life use already this connection, this combining of real and digital just to find the easiest, shortest, whatever way to the airport. And that is exactly what the industrial metaverse is about. And that's why I think that the industrial metaverse is very much alive. So what is it now, this industrial metaverse? So first of all, it's about large-scale digital twins. And one of those you can see here in the background. This is a digital twin of a factory from Freyr. Freyr, they produce batteries. And we help Freyr for the next generation of their factories to better find decisions, but I find the processes and how to organize their factories with these cloud-based digital twins. So that's one part of the industrial metaverse. Another one is photorealistic models. So everything that you can see here, it appears to be a real factory, nearly. And that is also what the industrial metaverse is about, that you won't be really able to distinguish between the real world and the virtual world. And it's not only about seeing this with your VR headset, it's rather to meet in this environment, to really immerse in this environment. So maybe one person is sitting in Munich, another one is sitting in Berlin, and another one is maybe even in US, but you come together in this virtual environment, in this virtual factory, and collaborate as if you were all actually in the same space, in the same factory. And that without traveling. So it really is good, especially when we think about our workforce. Then we also need real-time simulation. And that is still not possible today because of latencies, because of the processing power we still have. We won't be able to have those real-time simulation yet. But it will also help, of course, to collaborate. Because now, you do such a simulation on your own, at home or in the office. But if you can collaborate and do those simulations in real time with the real-time data, that's of course improving the efficiency of the processes we have, especially in engineering. And then lastly, the industrial metaverse will also be about model-based collaboration and also the closed loop between the real and the virtual world. So what does that mean? If you are in this virtual environment and you think, well, maybe this robot arm is not very precisely, I should adapt it, and you adapt it in this virtual world, then the feedback gets immediately also into the real world, and you can see that the robot arm in the reality will act accordingly. And also the other way around. So if you exchange a machine in your factory, then you also want, of course, the model to replicate the same situation. So also those adaptations will then be mirrored in this virtual world. So of course, now that I'm telling you all these different ideas, the industrial metaverse is still a vision. It's not there yet. But still, we also have already some use cases showing that it is possible, because all the technologies you need to create this industrial metaverse, they are already there. So of course, as I said, you will need digital twins. We will also need all the information and communication technologies coming from the Internet of Things. And as it is all about sending data, first of all, from the real shop floor, for example, sending this to the cloud and putting this into the virtual world, and also to get all the information back from the virtual world into reality, you of course need technologies like edge and cloud computing. You need strong 5G or even 6G networks. You need blockchain. You will also need artificial intelligence because, think about all the simulation you just saw. They won't be possible in real time if you don't have AI. And then, of course, you also need virtual and augmented reality. But I want also to emphasize that augmented and virtual reality is not the essential technology for the industrial metaverse, because it's not about being such an environment just for fun and to see everything and really immerse into it, because many of those questions you ask yourself in industry, they can be solved by looking at your maybe laptop, your notebook, or even at your phone, and you don't really have to have this virtual, totally immersive environment. And even in your real life, if you want to travel from here to the airport, you don't need to have VR glasses to understand where to go. So I want to today focus on the digital twin and want to give you some examples that the industrial metaverse is here today. So we use the digital twin technology also in our own factories. So we kind of drink our own champagne as Siemens. That means we use digital twins in our brownfield factories, for example, in Erlangen. And if you want to know more about it, you just visit our booth where you can dive deeper into that. And we also use this in new factories, like one factory we've just built in China. And I want to show you 3 examples. The first one is about the design phase. So when we think about sustainability, 80% of the environmental impact of a product is defined in the design phase. So it's really a very important phase for a product. So when we look at, for example, the steering knuckle, we want to make it, for example, lighter. And of course, there are experts today who are able to do so, but it also costs them some time. Now with artificial intelligence and in this virtual environment, we are able to do this in way less time to have a lighter version of such a steering knuckle. And the cool thing about the industrial metaverse will be that you can test your design completely virtual. So today you would build a prototype, a real prototype, you would test it in reality, realize something is not really working, go back to the design phase, change something, build the next prototype, and so on. But as the industrial metaverse will also mirror the environment where such a product would be used afterwards, it can help us to have all those things tested in a virtual environment. And therefore, it's really important that all the simulations we do in the industrial metaverse are physics-based. So everything has to act as it would act or as it would behave in reality. And if that's possible, then we think it will be also possible to save up to 50% material. So half of the material just by this virtual designing and virtual testing. But it's not only about designing, it's also, of course, about producing a product. And first of all, when you create a factory or plan a factory, the digital twin will, of course, also help us. Giving you one example, we had several manufacturing sites, and we wanted to bring them together in a new factory. So what we did, we made a totally virtual replication of this future factory, and all the planning colleagues, they were able to already go through the new factory and check whether the processes are running very good or if it's working fine and so on. And now compared to the old factories which we merged into this factory, we can say that we saved or we boost productivity by up to 20% just by having a virtual planning phase. And then when the production is running, we of course can also optimize such a production again and again. And here in the background, you can also see this digital twin of the factory, of our first digital native factory. And with optimizing in this virtual world, we can also save energy by up to 40%. Because what you don't want to do is interrupt your production, because usually it should run 24/7. So if you want to change something, it's quite difficult how to test it. But with this virtual environment, you're able to, for example, try out a new machine, do a virtual commissioning way easier. And then when it comes to exchange, for example, one machine or one robot, you can immediately do it. And that is why the industrial metaverse will also help us to continuously optimize our production processes. So I would say the industrial metaverse really helps us to solve real-world problems. The challenge is that it's not here yet. But as I said, the technologies, they are here, and we just have to develop them further. So I think one challenge will be, how can we bring all those technologies together? But the major challenge I see is actually that we, as Siemens, we cannot build the industrial metaverse on our own. That is something that we have to do together. So I ask you to build the industrial metaverse together with all the companies we have, and therefore I'm happy to also see the panel afterwards where we can see how we can together create this industrial metaverse. Now I owe you one answer to the question, is the industrial metaverse hype or hope? And as I showed these examples and the big impact they also have on sustainability, I would definitely say that the industrial metaverse is hope. So with that, I thank you and hand over to you.
Right, thank you, Annika. All right. Wonderful. And will you be in the speaker's corner?
Sure.
I love the spirit. Okay, so it's just around the corner to your right. Let them take the headset off of you, and then anyone in the audience who wants to speak to Annika can meet her there.